Gather around, my dears. Today I will tell you a story about a beautiful princess. Once upon a time, in a big palace, a beautiful princess was born. Her hair was as black as ebony, her lips as red as a rose, and her skin as white as snow. She was named Snow White. She was very generous and gentle to everyone. Snow White had a stepmother. The queen was beautiful but very cruel. She had a magic mirror. Every day she would ask it, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" The mirror would always say, "You, my queen." This made the queen happy. But one day the mirror said, "Snow White." The queen became very angry. She was jealous of Snow White. She could not bear the thought of anyone being more beautiful than her. The queen decided that Snow White must be killed. She called for a huntsman and ordered him to take Snow White into the forest and end her life. The huntsman took Snow White deep into the woods. But when he saw her fear, he couldn't do it. He told Snow White the truth. He said, "Run away and hide. The queen wants to kill you." Snow White was scared and ran as fast as she could through the trees. After running for a long time, she came across a small house. She felt relieved and went inside. The house was very small and messy. Everything was tiny. Snow White decided to clean up. She tidied the house until it was nice and neat. She was very tired, so she lay down on one of the 7 tiny beds and fell fast asleep. Soon, the 7 dwarfs who lived in the house came home from their day at the mines. They were surprised to find their house clean and a girl sleeping in their beds. They were startled and shouted in surprise. Snow White woke up and cried out too. The dwarfs introduced themselves one by one. They asked Snow White who she was and what she was doing in their house. She told them everything about the cruel queen and the huntsman. The dwarfs felt sorry for her. They told her she could stay with them if she helped with the chores and cooked for them. Snow White agreed and was very happy to stay. Every day when the dwarfs went to work, Snow White played with the little birds and animals in the forest. She enjoyed her peaceful life very much, but the queen was still thinking of Snow White. She asked her mirror again, "Who is the fairest of them all?" To her shock, the mirror answered, "Snow White." The queen was furious. She realized the huntsman had let Snow White live. This time she would do it herself. The queen went to her secret room and made a poisoned apple. The apple was so dangerous that just one bite could kill someone. She disguised herself as an old woman and set out to find Snow White. When she reached the dwarf's house, she knocked on the door. The dwarfs had told Snow White to never open the door to strangers. But the queen pretended to sell beautiful apples. Snow White was curious. She opened the window and asked the old woman what she wanted. The queen held up the shiny apple and said, "Taste this delicious apple." At first, Snow White was hesitant, but the apple looked so tempting. She took a bite, and instantly she fell to the ground. The wicked queen laughed and hurried back to her palace. When the dwarfs returned home, they found Snow White lying on the floor. They were heartbroken. They shook her and tried to wake her, but nothing worked. They gently placed her in a glass coffin. They wanted to keep her safe and promised to watch over her. One day, a prince was riding through the forest. He saw the beautiful glass coffin and Snow White inside. He had heard about her beauty and loved her from afar. The prince asked the dwarfs if he could take the coffin. The dwarfs were sad but agreed. As the prince leaned down to kiss Snow White's hand, something magical happened. With his kiss, Snow White opened her eyes. She came back to life. The dwarfs were overjoyed, and the prince was happy to see Snow White awake. The prince and Snow White spoke together, and they fell in love. They told everyone in the kingdom about the evil queen. The queen learned about Snow White waking up. She was filled with rage. In the end, she was banished forever from the kingdom. Snow White and the prince were married in a grand ceremony. They lived happily ever after. And so, the story of Snow White and the 7 dwarfs teaches us that kindness and love will always triumph over cruelty.